So how are we doing? Are we pretty much loaded up? Everybody has arrived? Let me take a look at my gallery view here. Oh yes, look at all my beloveds. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Wow, hi everybody. Hi, yep. Here we are once again. Oh, fantastic. Well, so I'm very grateful that we have this time together, and because of the circumstances, I have been doing much more frequent talking. So hopefully I won't repeat myself too much. Let's see. Can you all hear me? Just raise your hand if you can. Yes? Okay. Very good. All right. So that's great. Good enough. So then, what shall we chat about? First of all, I want to inform you all, because I've been telling everybody I will be going home on the 23rd of June, but I just changed my flight to the 10th of June. So just that you know, I'm of course having a fabulous time here in Florida with my dear friends, but I really am also eager to get home and have a little more flexibility as far as Zooming and dancing, and just being in my own home would be very nice. But what shall we talk about today? So I had a few different things that I wanted to discuss. And of course, I'm very interested in what you are interested in hearing about, if there's anything. So please, I will appeal to all of you again. Write down your questions, and whatever aspect of anything that I'm discussing that you want me to, fill in, I'm happy to do that. It's much easier for me than for me trying to pick topics. So I am going to go with the questions or topics that were suggested to me. Some of them I already spoke a little bit about in the English-Portuguese section of my talk. But because they were specifically sent to me by our English speakers, and I know that they are most likely here. First of all, I want to say, is Malia here? Has Malia arrived yet? Or is she here today? Yeah? Okay, let me try one more. Because her question was very interesting, and it's something that I'm very much involved in working with, which is the whole idea of ferocious compassion. How do we manifest the different qualities of Tara in a way that represents our loving compassion, when at times it feels that a degree of ferocity is called for? So how do we do that? And particularly in the situation that we're in now, where we're in pretty tight quarters with other people, and we have to work with all the different personalities and situations, not to mention when we watch the television or our videos and we see the circumstances in the world right now. It's easy to get a sense of ferocity arises. So what do we do with that, and how do we work with that, and what does it mean? How do we see it as a gesture of awakened mind when it appears to be uncomfortable? The key to ferocious compassion is compassion. In other words, if we need to demonstrate a strong hand in something, it should come from the heart. It should come from the place of wanting to protect, wanting to help, wanting to engage in a way that is going to be transformative, because ferocity is a very intense energy. So if we're going to use intense energy, the energy of passion also is very intense. There are red Tara, very intense. If we're going to use these intense energies, we have to know what is our goal. And the goal cannot be putative. In other words, we're not here to punish anybody, including ourselves. We are not here to be punished. We are here to collectively up level consciousness and this effort that we make as we join together in a group, as we focus on these energies, as I direct the focus of the conversation, the whole understanding is that we are uplifting, we are awakening our capacity for wisdom and compassion. That is the sole purpose for our gathering together. And that is the sole purpose of using the powerful energies, whatever energy we need in order to bring about the transformation of consciousness. When we see before us a sense of density, when we see people suffering. The Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, indicated to us that the first thing we really need to pay attention to is the degree to which we are suffering and those around us are suffering. And to recognize that there is a way out of this, that in fact it's very clear, the way out of suffering is very clear. However, we need to engage. It's like any sickness or any disturbance, any distortion in our mental continuum. If we don't engage, if we don't have a strategy of moving the energy so that there is a transformation of consciousness, then it stagnates. It doesn't go anywhere, or it goes, but where it goes is not in a wholesome place. So we want to use these different powers that we have in order to help us to engage most fully in a loving way, but also recognizing when we talk about strategy, peacefulness is not the only strategy available to us, and it's not always the only one that's effective. Sometimes one must take a firm stand. Now, the image, there are two stories that I always tell in reference to this. And this, Malia brought this up when she asked this question, which was, okay, the example that you always give, that's me, the example that I always give, is if there was a child who was about to run in front of a truck, would you whisper, or what would you do? You might shout in an aggressive way. You might even grab the child and throw the child forcefully out of the way of the truck, because that is your loving compassion acting there. So it's not, you are not doing it out of wanting to punish the child. You're not doing it out of judgment at all. It is simply recognizing that out of your love and compassion for this situation, that you are changing the circumstance. You're moving the child out of harm's way. So now, think about that when we're encountering these various circumstances and situations that cause us frustration, that allow our energies to build where we feel this is not wholesome. This condition, this situation is not wholesome. And if your inner guide, and this is where you really need to develop this connection with your inner guide and trust it. If your inner guide tells you the most, the kindest thing that you can do is to aggressively say no to the situation, to move against the situation, as long as you do it with a sense of loving compassion, then fine. But if you do it with the intent to punish, that's not going to get us anywhere. If you do it out of a sense of your own personal guilt, also not going to get us anywhere. We really need to recognize how to move, even with power, even aggressively, but coming from the heart of compassion. So that is just a few little thoughts. The other metaphor that I always use, and I've used this story 1,000 times, but for me it's the most poignant, which is, of course, my mother, who, and I spoke about this just a few days ago, who was dying of Alzheimer's and who was aggressive, who was kicking out and running away, and we had to forcibly restrain her. It was very difficult and painful for all of us, but we did it out of love for her, because we didn't want her to run out into the street naked, and certainly there was no reason for us to allow her to harm the people around her, including us. And so that needed to be controlled, but we did it out of love. So now let's transfer this to a person who's standing in front of you being aggressive. Anytime a person is demonstrating aggression towards another because they are afraid or whatever their purpose is, if it's not to benefit them, but obviously to control them or to harm them, then they are harming themselves. We need to think about that ourselves as well. Whenever we are aggressive towards another, whenever we harm another, whenever we put somebody outside the circle of our love, then we ourselves are diminished, because the truth of our awakening is when we realize the fullness of our interconnectedness, and when we feel on every level what everyone is going through, and we understand what everyone is going through, and therefore engage from a point of interconnectedness. If we don't do that, if in fact we are striking out hostilely, then we are diminished by that, and our energy is sapped by that. So this is the criteria, this is the judgment, this is the question that we must always ask with our behavior. Is it to benefit? Who is this to benefit? Why are we even doing this engagement? What is it that we're trying to accomplish here? That's really the question that we need to ask. Now, very often I will say to someone who is acting out, I'll say, well, what is it that you really want? And I will point out to them, your behavior is not going to get you what you want. So why bother? Why engage in this way? And we need to ask ourselves that as well. If our behavior, our attitude, our thoughts are not, if our goal is awakened mind, if our goal is consciousness and joy, and instead we're engaging in activities that don't make us happy, that don't make us comfortable, why? Why are we doing that? Why do we torture ourselves this way? We have a choice. It's wonderful that we have choices. So that's what I have to say about Tara number 14 and how we engage with her. And the other part of the question was, how do I engage with this energy with myself? So when I see that I have something harmful that I'm doing, how do I engage with this activity? What do I do? And that's a valid question. What do we do? How do we deal with it? Well, we deal with it in ways that are fruitful. So there are different kinds of powers that we can use as we address the distortions of our own mental energy. So one is the power of pacification. We learn how to calm things down. Calm things down. So in that way, we could listen to relaxing music. We can engage in breath meditation, which also calms things down. We want to really look how to do that. On the other hand, the issue may cause us, we need to increase vitality. We need to increase energy. And so we engage in activities on the gold Tara ray of making offerings, doing practices of generosities, the special activity of that particular need to change the energy in something. So if we're feeling particularly impoverished, if we feel like we need something, then make offerings. Make offerings at your shrine, or make offerings to the people around you. Do service. So that will increase your vitality, that will increase your merit, which increases your vitality. For the red Tara, the passion, allow yourself, when you're in a situation where you feel passionate about something, where you feel like you really need to accomplish it, then determine, is this of value? Is this of value? And how can I engage in this way so that everybody who is associating with the issue passionately is involved, so that my passionate involvement in fact uplifts the energy of the people around me and transmits this magnetic sense of health and of well-being. And then we have this black-blue discipline. When do we need to say to ourselves, stop? Just stop. We have to be able to hold a position, which is what is required by this Tara number 14, this ferocity. We need to look at our own behavior and recognize this is damaging. This is not non-functional, and I refuse to allow myself to engage in this way. And you feel yourself to take a disciplined stand in your own body-mind. So that's what I have to say about that little wrinkle. So now what I'm going to ask you all to do is hold your hands out and invite Tara to come. And imagine that you're asking her, please come. Om Tare. Now bring your hands to your heart and assume the mudras of Tara. Tu Tare. So we imagine we're calling out to her. And now we listen for her answer. Tu re so ha, with our hands at our heart. Reach out to her, call on her, ask for her inspiration and guidance. Om Tare, Tu Tare. Tu re so ha. Once more. Om Tare, Tu Tare, Tu re so ha. So this is the beginning of a new piece that I'm working on, which comes from Anam Tupten's transmission, the beautiful poem and the beautiful melody that he gave us. So I just thought I'd change the channel a little bit before I get into my next topic, which is etiquette within our Tara dance circles. Now, it's an ongoing adventure for us to all work together with all of our various personalities and ways of approaching our material. And when we come together in a circle or in a group, just like any other culture, it's necessary for us to agree on a certain kind of etiquette, a certain kind of way of being, so that we can get the most out of this practice. We can get the most out of our coming together. The first order of business in our circle, for instance, this circle, there is a leader. There is someone who invites you to participate. Because it takes a tremendous amount of focus and preparation for this person to step forward and do this, we need to offer them a certain amount of respect. We need to really respect the fact that this person has gone through the time and the trouble to organize this engagement. So this is the first order of business that we should express with our etiquette, is that if we have any commentary, or if we feel that anything should be different or anything should be changed, we should discuss this with this person outside of the group, so it doesn't cause any interference with the group. It's hard enough to hold a circle together, to get everybody moving in the same direction with the same intent, to really stimulate everyone to feel together, to pray together, to not be distracted, to be respectful of the practice. So we need to, if you have comments or commentary, take it off the table and speak privately with whoever it is who's organizing. There are a few other points I want to make. When the door is open for conversation. If the leader says brief, then keep it brief. Be respectful of the timing. For instance, if we have 30 or 40 people, I don't know how many people we have here, it's close to 40. And the leader says, say a word or two, then just say a word or two. There's no reason to get carried away. And for those of you who are leaders now, you have to respect the group. This is something that you have to think about. How are you going to, your goal is to organize the group energy in a way that values the time and energy that people have given. For instance, all of you have given your time and energy to my invitation. And so therefore, I feel that I'm obligated to you in this way. I've invited you to come for a specific reason, even though I may not be, and this event may not, it may not give us everything that we want. It may not inspire us, or whatever it is that we think we're projecting as what we want. Nonetheless, there is still that effort, my effort towards you, and therefore my request of etiquette, your etiquette towards me. So think about this when you're in your various circles and also in your various Zooms, to be respectful of everybody's time and energy, and listen. If the leader says keep it brief, then keep it brief. This should not be an issue, but sometimes it is. And leaders, don't be shy about saying keep it brief. If someone is taken off with the energy, then go ahead. Here is your ferocious compassion. Step in there and say brief, brief. And of course, one rather interesting thing about Zoom is you can turn your mute on and off. So don't be shy about this if you feel that someone is taking the energy away. This is just a form of etiquette that we need to respect and understand, because it can be an issue. Now, another thing that arises in the group, we are all these various and sundry personalities, and our personalities display in different ways. And our patterned behavior, when we are talking one to another, when we are discussing things, very often we do not really understand what is going on. We think we're speaking English. Yes, we're speaking English, but my English and your English are completely different because of our history. Our history is my background and your background, totally different. My parents, your parents, my town, your town, all of these things, it's very important to recognize we may not really understand each other. So if any kind of difficulty arises, try your best to discuss what the meaning of your feelings, try to discuss your feelings with the person that you feel is causing you any kind of distress. Because very often, if you were to really communicate your distress, you would discover that they didn't understand you at all, and that it's a totally confusing situation. So communication, when there's any kind of sense of this is not working, I'm not comfortable, leaders, especially if it's somebody in your group, make the time to talk with them outside of the group. We've got the email addresses of everybody, so there should not be an issue with that. Any time that you feel that behavior is uncomfortable or distorted, it's essential. But it's the same thing in any relationship that you have. Because we build up these feelings, these resistances, these judgments about others that are not accurate. They have to do with our own distorted perception. And so we really need to look at that. We need to examine, is it mine? there's a wonderful training. Prema, she elaborates in her book, Start Where You Are. But there are many, many versions to the seven lines of mind training. And in each one of the most powerful is take all blames until oneself. So in other words, if any conflict is arising between you and anyone else, imagine that the distortion is your own patterned behavior, your own patterns. Because if you are operating, if you are engaged with anyone that does not, and it is not loving kindness, if it's not motivated by loving kindness or compassion, then there's some distortion in yourself. So whenever it arises, it is your obligation to disarm that within yourself. And very often you can do that by communicating with the other person and finding out where are they really coming from. I'll tell you a story. That's one of my favorite stories in this. It comes from Shabda. Shabda, the peer of the Sufi order, the old buddy of mine, way back before we became anything, we were Indian musicians. And he was telling us about how he travels a great deal, and he was on a plane, and he had made special reservation. This was before you could pay for these seats. He made a big effort to get the seat with a lot of leg room because he's a big man and he's tall and long legs. So he got the seat, right? The bulwark seat, and he gets himself in early because he's got whatever other privileges, and he gets himself all settled in, ready for a long flight. And just as the flight takes off and he settles back and he feels something against his head. So he keeps, brushing it and then brushing it. And finally, he grabs a hold of it and turns, and it's the foot of the woman who is sitting behind him. And so, he turns around to look at her. This is because, what is this, And so he asks very kindly, because of course he's, this Sufi good guy, and he asks very kindly, please, it's a long flight. Maybe, maybe you could put your foot somewhere else, right? So this goes on for a while. And then finally the woman, with a lot of hostility, gets up and goes off to the bathroom. The man who's sitting next to her leans up. Now, of course, Shabda by this point is pretty aggravated by the whole situation, right? And the man sitting next to her leans forward and says to him, I'm so sorry. This is my wife. We just lost our child, and she's out of her mind with grief. She doesn't know what she's doing. Well, can you imagine what happened inside Shabda? Basically, he realized, of course, he has nothing, whatever she is doing. I mean, he really was quite humble about the whole situation. Not that he liked the foot, and in fact, she didn't continue. But it changed him inside of his heart. It was a message to him to really pay attention, because when people are acting out, you don't know what it is that's going on for them. Now, very often, people who are acting out in aggressive ways, they are demonstrating this behavior because of something in their past. They have not examined their minds to see what's compelling them to behave in ways that are uncomfortable for others. And so they're acting out. Our position, what if you want to really preserve your merit, if you want to preserve your vitality, your good attitude, then always think, okay, any darkness that I feel, any disturbance that I feel about this situation, That's mine. That attitude is mine. If I ever move from the place of compassion, however this person is acting out, they can only act out because they do not understand interconnectedness. They do not understand how they are digging their own hole. They are creating the circumstances for intense suffering in their life. So out of my compassion, out of my compassionate heart, what can I do to help diffuse that? So we take it out of this sense of I'm the victim, this person is abusing me, it's so bad, their behavior. Instead, we ask, what's behind this behavior? What is causing this behavior? Because they would never behave like this if they understood that we were interconnected together. So this is something very important for you to examine. And I encourage you to develop relationships with people. This is where sources of refuge come in handy, especially ones that you can talk to. So if you find yourself in an aggressive situation with somebody and you feel yourself wanting to strike back, ask for help. Ask for help. Talk about it. Try to see behind what is causing the issue, because what is behind it is fear. Now, one of the issues that for some reason kept appearing to me this week to share with you is when we encounter what we might call arrogance. We see people who are behaving in this way. They think that they've got all the answers and they're better than. If you really push against this, you will discover someone who feels totally judged and inadequate, and their behavior is trying to compensate for this sense of inadequacy. So again, when you see something like this, you allow your heart of compassion to open to it, and you ask yourself, what can I do in this situation? What can I do? I really noticed this. I was thinking about engagements with all these different lamas that I know, and all these great beings like His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Jamgon Kongtrul, and the ones that I really felt totally comfortable and wanted to develop a relationship with them and wanted to know them. They were the ones that exhibited the least amount of arrogance. They were easygoing. They were joyful. They approached everybody as if they were their dear friend, and were open-hearted and had no, they didn't have any personal axe to grind. So we can observe this in all of our different connections and connectivities. Yeah. So before I go on to my next topic, how am I doing? Am I taking, I still got a bit of time. Is there anything that anyone wants to say or ask about what I just discussed? Let me zip through. Just raise your hand. Okay, over here. Okay. You are unmuted, or you should be. Come on now. Joshua, can you help me here? For some reason, I can't seem to unmute her.
Are you trying to unmute?
Over here. I can't see the name. Goodness gracious, where are my glasses? Galaxy. J7 star. I don't know that I know you, do I? Here. Well, it's not allowing me to unmute her.
It's also not allowing me to unmute as well.
Okay. Well, I'm so sorry. If you have a question, you can... Oh, okay. So from Galaxy J7 star to everyone. Very helpful, Prema. Okay. I'm sorry I can't unmute you, because if you had a question or something else that you wanted to share. But anyway, life is interesting in the Zoom lane.
Remember, you can always raise your hand in the participants panel if you'd like to be acknowledged in that way as well.
Okay. So can you do that, Josh? Do you see her? It's
Yeah, but
Galaxy J7.
right, but for some reason it just won't unmute. It must have something
Okay,
to do
you
with it.
unmuted. We got
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just didn't know. Yeah, this is Amina. I didn't know that I was Galaxy G7. Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to say this is really it's really helpful. It's not like it's anything new. I've been a group leader quite a bit, and so that part about leadership and taking responsibility is always a good reminder to keep groups feeling that way everybody feels respected the way that you're describing. So thank you for reminding everybody about that and reminding me. And the part about this, you know, recently I got tweaked by somebody, and I like I have every reason to feel good about this person. She's a Dharma practitioner, but there's just something like we tweak each other. There's some weird competition between us. And what I notice is like I am really afraid to talk to people when that's happening. I'm afraid of the feelings arising in me, I think. You know, it makes me so nervous to bring it up because I don't know, because it's such a visceral response that I'm having with her. So it's good. I know that I have to keep looking at myself, but I think also that courage to talk to them directly. Like I've talked to my other friend about it who also knows her and knows me very well. And that's what she said to do, but I've been afraid to do it. And since I haven't done it, now she's in a really traumatic circumstance in her family. She just found out that her husband has a very viral sense of cancer. And it's a big shock for them and for all of us that know them. And so now that just makes this, whatever this is between us, seem so less important. You know what I mean? It's almost like you said with Shabda, although, I mean, who knows? Like I was doing a workshop for a women's saging group on dying, what I had learned from my death doula training, and she was so re-stimulated she had to walk out. Well, like who knows? Maybe she did know something was going on with her husband, or maybe internally, who knows? But you know, it's just like I'm so out with wherever I'm at on deep topics. I'm very verbal and I'm able to be with people who are very verbal. But people who are not very verbal, I feel kind of unsafe with them because something's going on, but I don't know what it is. But that's all about me.
Yeah.
Anyway, very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I mean, it looked like you, but I mean, Galaxy 7 star, I just wasn't going to take it for granted since it's a little tiny picture and I don't see that well. But there are a couple of things that I would say to you, which is have the conversation with her, but start it always and throughout the entire conversation, continually affirm your affection. I care about you. I care about our relationship. I'm doing this because I want us to be closer and because my feelings are inhibiting me from feeling close. And so and own your feelings. Say, you know, I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just talking about my feelings, what I'm feeling. And so because it's my feelings, I'm asking for your compassion towards me to help me solve this. You may not get anywhere, but on the other hand, it's giving you one more step. And the thing to always do is just continually affirm your affection. Continually repeat for yourself and her, I care about you. This is not an attack. This is not a judgment. There's no judgment going on. I'm just asking if you would be willing to explore this with me, because there's some kind of information there and I can't get at it alone. I really feel like you can help me to get at whatever is going on inside of me. That's what I would suggest. Yeah. Okay, beautiful. Okay, anybody else have anything that you would like to discuss or ask? Okay, is this over here, is that Mary Stone? Okay, let me see if I can unmute you. Ah! Oh, so cool. All right, hi, Mary, Malia.
I just following up, I came in late. Thank you for Ferocious Compassion. But at any rate, following up on Amina's thing, when you ask the other person with whom you are having, who's like nonverbal, are you asking them to help you to be more aware of their issue? I mean, what are you asking them to communicate to you, given that, as Amina says, they're kind of a nonverbal person? Because frequently one has those kind of people that you are having challenging. You want to be open, you want them to be open. And how are you asking them to, I don't know, get in touch with themselves to be open to you so that you can be more open to them? That's not too...
None of this is easy. None of this is easy. And very often it requires an investment of time and energy. And sometimes we resent the fact that it requires our time and energy. But think about it. In other words, look at the situation and think, okay, first of all, if we're going to encounter another about a difficulty, own it yourself. So in other words, you would say, I'm having these feelings. I need your help in order to resolve this. So you're not blaming them. In fact, there's no sense of blame. There's this, I'm having these feelings and this is what it looks like to me. And you can see what they have to say. You might be surprised. People are nonverbal very often because they don't feel that what they have to say is of value. So you give them value by saying, I want to hear from you. I want to hear if maybe there's some way that you can help me because I'm having these feelings. Now, it may or may not work. The thing about our encounter with each other is that we have so many different pieces of our own psyche that need to be opened up and polished, and we need to look into our situation. So a lot of times the big aha, and this is where it's very helpful to have someone that has a little bit of experience with this kind of thing, that you can discuss it so that you can start to see what do you need to own in this. Because very often what appears to be some kind of activity, uncomfortable activity of the other person actually has to do with your personal resistance and your whole trip, and you don't see your part because we are so familiar with the way we think and the way we are that we don't see exactly what our part is in what, no matter what's going on. That's why this statement, take all blames onto oneself, is so helpful. Because every time we go to judge another person, if we first say, okay, somehow I am participating in the creation of this situation. I don't know what it is. What am I doing? So if we engage from that place, we're going to make a whole lot more progress with others.
Chode. The Chode exercises are feeding your demons.
Yes, definitely feed your own demons.
How am I classifying this as a demon? What makes me classify. And then you think, well, we all like, you know, your favorite kind of food, being a foodie, and give that, or, you know, whatever you want to. So you've made this demon. So how are you going to make that demon happy?
Well, that's a whole other piece of, there's a whole other mode of approach right now. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't think we have the time to really go into that. But for those of you who don't know, Sotramalioni has written a brilliant book called Feeding Your Demons. And it is a way of dealing with these resistances that we have within our own psyche of being able to get along with the world, whatever it is that we are having resistance. She's a very, very profound method of practice. So this is what Malia is talking about, Feeding Your Demons by Sotramalioni. Okay, how are we doing? Oh, we still got a few minutes. Anyone else have something they want to share, or questions that they have, or something you want me to talk about? Okay, I don't see any hands waving. Do you, Josh?
Nothing in the chat panel or in the participants panel.
Lori. All right, I'm going to unmute you, Lori, if I can.
Yeah. Just a quick question about the September at the Tara.
Okay. So Phyllis Moses contacted Tara Mandala to ask them if that event was still on. And they said that they are that they're canceling everything for the next 8 weeks. All right, so that's 2 months. So that's June, July. And then they are going to reassess the situation. So in July sometime, we should be able to know whether it's open or not. It's impossible to know what's going to happen. According to certain reports, places are opening up, gatherings are happening. I think 10 people at a time are allowed to gather, or, who knows, right? We have no idea. So right now, that whole thing, I'm not going to make any decision about it until July.
Right.
But thank you for asking. Yeah, I'm hoping, it would be lovely if we could still do it, but who knows? We don't even know what the circumstances are going to be. I will find out about airport travel June 10th, and I will be able to report to everybody what that's like. I have to, I leave from Jacksonville and fly to Dallas, and then from Dallas I fly to Maui, and then I understand that I will need to go into quarantine and blah, blah, blah. So, if those conditions are still happening in September, of course, in fact, we'll have to make the decision even before September. We'll have to make the decision the beginning of August, because if we're going to do the thing, then we've got to make flights, and, it seems unlikely to me.
Yeah.
Especially with the economic conditions, because I'm sure everybody is feeling a little bit of pinch when it comes to that. We don't, so yeah, I don't know that I can afford a flight round trip to Tara Mandala unless we have enough of our students joining us. And so we don't know. We have no idea. It's such a magnificent, it's such a magnificent time of impermanence, and just absolutely not being able to predict what's going to happen from one day to the next is fantastic. Really good training. Yeah, really good training. Okay, anything else anyone wants to discuss? Any other questions? Yeah, okay, that's good. Oh, here we have one over here. Phyllis Dano. Great. Hi, Phyllis. Nice to see you. Okay, let's see. All right. You're unmuted.
I'm unmuted. Oh, and I have a microphone. So which Tara would I visit with them each every day, but I'm really feeling a challenge with feeling overwhelmed with depression, or or anger, or just the mess of not knowing. And then part of me is excited about living in impermanence, but I think all my conditions are a little freaked out, and I'm noticing anger arising more often than usual, and just days where I don't want to get up even. I don't know. I guess I'm not sure what I'm asking. I'm one rope that can be thrown to me if I'm calling out.
Okay, what I recommend, Phyllis, is, are you doing a daily practice?
Yes, probably not. Yes and no.
Yes and no. Okay, all right. So let's look at the no part, okay?
Yeah.
So, because I would recommend that you make sure that you do a Tara practice, that you do the preliminaries, that you chant the 4 thoughts that turn the mind, and that you engage in some form of Tara practice where you are affirming the qualities of Tara. There's a practice that I recommend everyone when you're doing the qualities to say, Tara is swift protection. I am swift protection.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Tara is creative wisdom. I am creative wisdom. So, and then at the end of all of this, remind yourself, I'm doing all of this so that I can be more skillful in dealing with the world around me. Because if I lose energy, if I stay in bed, if I don't engage, then I'm not helping the situation. I'm not uplifting the situation. So in that way, we actually do have a job to do here.
Yes.
And so it will reaffirm all of that for you. That's what I would recommend. Now, I know you have different practices, Sufi practices, but definitely those things, the prayer of motivation, refuge and bodhicitta, the 4 thoughts, and at least the qualities, and then accumulate mantra. Something else that I really suggest that everyone think about during this time is to set a goal to do 1 million Tara mantras. And don't worry about ever accomplishing this goal, but do everything you can to get there. So when you're going for a walk, say mantra. When you're washing your dishes, say mantra.
That's when I do my practice the most, is when I'm walking. So it gets me out there and I'm saying it all as I'm walking. It feels the most attractive to me. Sitting down, I do so much sitting all the rest of the time. So yeah, getting out and walking and doing the mantras, and because I have it all memorized, so I do it all.
Exactly.
Even those 4 thoughts that I haven't thought about for a while, I think they're still memorized in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Thank
this
you.
Is good. Yeah. So rely on that, and remember that is, our goal here is to be skillful and to be able to really bring benefit. So just because we're in our houses doesn't mean there's plenty for us to do.
Right. Thank you, Prema.
Okay. So nice to see you, ladies. I just wish I could hug each one of you. Oh well, I'm giving you a cyber hug. I hope you can feel it right now. Yeah. So, okay. Well, it looks like that's it for my hour of ranting and raving. Miri mentioned something that I just want to, I don't know if you could see the video that I opened with, but the Vajrasattva, I played it and I might have not had it on correctly. But at any rate, one of the things that I really recommend you do is the Vajrasattva practice, to get the beautiful meditation and mantra of bhava, and to play this. Play it when you're just hanging out, play it when you're doing something that, play it before you go to bed. But let go of all of your density. Let go of any sense of guilt. Let go of any sense of judgment. let go of any resistance, any anger, and certainly any depression. You know, really just feel this light pouring through you, pouring through you, pouring through you, until you realize that you are, in fact, made of light. So that is my last little wrinkle today. So beautiful to see you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you for showing up. I really appreciate it. I also want to thank all of you for your wonderful donations. That's been really helpful for gather and make it all happen. It's really marvelous, really, really wonderful. So I'm going to say a little dedication prayer and then a little omahung, and then I will leave it to you all if you want to have a little chat together. Mother Tara, surrounding us always with your love, your inspiration, your joy, your guidance. I pray that you walk with us during these interesting times, that you help us to see every bit of this as a magnificent opportunity. And whatever it is that we need to cultivate in our life, help us so that we truly are able to bring benefit to all of those that we encounter. Mother Tara, keep us united in this beautiful community of hearts, and take this energy of our focused attention and our prayers and our thoughts and our practices. Please take this and send it into the world to bring benefit and blessings to all beings. Om Ma. Om Ma. Om Ma.